Hello and welcome to my Technology Integration Initiative presentation. My presentation will focus on using a flipped classroom approach, which primarily came about due to a hybrid shift in my school from distance learning to hybrid. My vision and goals. My primary goal is to use a flipped classroom to improve the efficacy of a hybrid learning model. Students will not have a significant transition moving from distance learning to hybrid, as we have used the same technology all year long in a live synchronous classroom experience. I am also looking to create more real-world based learning opportunities rather than transfer of knowledge like situations. I'm going to define transfer of knowledge situations in the case where the teacher is directly instructing on what something means or how to do something. So when the teacher is directly transferring some knowledge from themselves to the students rather than the students creating knowledge for themselves. The participants in this flipped classroom initiative will include teachers, and they'll be participating as creators of curriculum, as guides to move their students along in the curriculum, and learners as well. As I'll talk about later, some of the research that I've looked into has really emphasized that no one-size-fits-all approach will work for any given classroom, and so teachers need to be constantly learning about what works and what doesn't, and how to better use what does work and how to fix what isn't working. Students will also be engaged in multiple roles. Students will be the users of the flipped classroom. So they will be engaging with the material. They will be using the material outside of class and then using classroom time for more hands-on opportunities. And they will also be learners in the aspect of not only learning the content, but also learning other skills as well. Independence, self-motivation, lots of self-starting skills like that. Administration will also have a role. They will serve as observers. At our school, observer or admin will be observing teachers. They will be using their rubrics to evaluate our performance, and that will not change from how it is currently. The low-tie level. My plan will fall under the low-tie 5 level, which is expansion. Now the different barriers to get there. First level, it is aligned to standards. Check. Everything that I do goes to the standards. It's my first thing I check off. Is it critical thinking? Yes. I always aim to engage that higher order thinking. I try my very best to not give my students anything that is, rote, anything that is low level on the scale. It's always higher order thinking. Is it real world learning? Yes. The pandemic response has led to more real world learning opportunities, I feel. Being digital has allowed us to bring the outside world into school in a way that we never could have before. We have digitized everything, and so that has led us to be able to bring outside worlds and outside experts, which is the next level, in as well. We have been able to invite experts to Google meetings. We have been able to use class time to send emails to outside experts to get more expertise. We've been able to bring community members in through Google Meets. And community experts definitely count as, or community members also count as experts when we are centering our curriculum in our students' real world community. Is it digitally exclusive though? No. I'm not ready to take that jump to say that everything is entirely digital. We do still use some print sources. We also do use some physical materials. Not everything. I am comfortable with digitizing yet, and so that's why we fall to level 5 and not to level 6. So the benefits of my technology initiative. Currently, the time with teachers is often used to transfer knowledge from the teacher to the student. That's when the teacher is directly instructing on how to do something or what something means. Flipped classrooms will shift that to transferring basic knowledge and processes during out of class time and allowing creation of knowledge to happen cooperatively in the classroom. So we don't have to spend the time during the day when we have students in front of us explaining this is what this one thing means. Instead, I will be able to put that in a video and I'll be able to send it out to my students and they'll be able to watch that for their homework and they'll be able to get that transfer of knowledge and later in the afternoon or in the evening when they are completing their homework, and they can take that to school the next time they are here, and we can use that knowledge that they have now to create more information, to create more knowledge. It will help build student independence and ownership of their learning by having students be responsible for watching those videos outside of class. Students need to just do it. They need to own it and they need to follow through on it. One of the research articles that I read, it was a little bit dated. It was from 2013, I believe. And one of their worries about using a flipped classroom was that their students wouldn't engage with their content outside of the classroom. However, new technology allows teachers to hold students accountable. In particular, one app I'm thinking of, Edpuzzle. It will allow me to upload my videos to YouTube and then transfer them from YouTube into Edpuzzle. And this technology, this Edpuzzle technology, will allow me to see exactly how much of each video every single student has watched. It will allow me to insert questions into each video so that as I'm transferring that knowledge to the students through the video, these basic definitions or processes, that kind of stuff, I can quiz them on it throughout, and they will not be able to go on until they have mastered that. It also allows students to go at their own pace for that portion. If there is a part of it where students aren't quite understanding a definition, or maybe I was talking just a bit too fast, the biggest benefit of this is that it ensures that every student is able to access it. Because if they didn't get it the first time, they can rewind the video. They can start it from the beginning. They can watch it 6 times if they need to, and they're not holding up any of their other classmates. So that is a huge benefit. Challenges to my technology initiative. My school has not prepared our students very well to be independent learners. We've had a lack of critical thinking skills being taught, which I attribute to high turnover rate throughout our district. Our students have continually had different teachers year after year, our district is very small, and I, for instance, teach all of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade social studies. I have now been here for 3 years, so we've had a steady teacher, me, for the last 3 years for social studies. They've had 3 different English teachers in the last 3 years. They've had 2 different math teachers, and so that turnover has caused a lot of disconnect. A lot of things have been missed, and so our students are kind of behind where they should be for critical thinking. Now, there's nothing to be done about that except keep working at those skills and try to implement high quality lessons, which has definitely been my primary goal this year. I've been working very hard to try to fill those gaps as much as I can. Another challenge is that under our current hybrid plan, students will only have 1 day per week in my classroom. Our students will be in the school 2 days a week, but because we have block classes, I only see my kids every other day, and so I only get to see them 1 day per week. This will result in less content being covered. That's both a challenge and a solution. Rather than trying to go as fast as I can, one of the things that we will have to do is slow it down a little bit and be more intentional about what I am doing for those videos, what I'm asking students to do when they are here in the school. Another challenge is that flipped classrooms require teachers to provide transfer of skills or transferring of knowledge quickly and succinctly. Goffin and Slomanson both recommend shorter videos, 10 minutes or less. Those are two different researchers that I've cited there, two independent articles, and both of them mention that their videos at first were too long. And these are college students they're talking about in those, and they wanted 10-minute videos or less for college students. So at my level of middle school, I think it would be incredibly important to definitely not go over that 10 minutes. They also recommend scripting the videos to ensure a more precise use of language and constant revision of videos. So do not just continue to reuse the same videos year after year after year, but every year re-examine them, figure out what didn't work very well, and fix it. Now, the resources needed for this technology initiative, thankfully, we already have them all in place. All of the resources are already implemented. All of the teachers have webcams and video making software on our school devices. That was installed at the beginning of the year. Every single one of our middle school students has confirmed access to the internet. We've been working in distance learning since the beginning of the year, so this is already set up. All students have a Chromebook with software support led by our school IT specialist, who is in the building 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. She is fantastic and provides all sorts of support we need. We have also created hubs where teachers and paraprofessionals can actually go out into the community. These are places like the YMCA here at the school, at the local library, where we can meet with small groups of students that we invite, and we ask them to come in on this particular day and time, make an appointment, and then we will work with those students on any skills that we feel they may need. The reservation, the tribal government, has also done a great job of supporting their students. We typically, during the school year, have what's called the AAC, the Anishinaabe Academic Center, which is a essentially academic tutoring for the Native American students in the school. Obviously, since we have no students in our school, they have pulled those tutors from our building and brought them to the Tribal Community Center, where they meet with students every day, which is a fantastic resource for that. Now, the initial steps that we're going to need to take are already in progress. Our PLC team, our peer learning community team in the middle school, has been working on developing a lesson framework for flipped classrooms. We're going to be focusing on 3 aspects, which are how long will lessons and videos be? Those are obviously 2 different things. Lessons would be how long we are expecting students to spend engaging with the curriculum on the flipped version of it outside of the classroom. And also, how long should the video portion of that be? So is there going to be a 8-minute video with 10 minutes worth of practice work for them in preparation for being in the classroom the next day? That's one thing we're looking at. We're also talking about the academic rigor of the at-home portion. Should we tune it down a little bit for the academic rigor at home? For the lessons after the video, the practice questions, should we aim for less of those higher order thinking skills and aim for a more precise, can you do this kind of thing? We're also talking about the scope and sequence. And this goes to what exactly are we going to cover, how long are we going to take on it, and when are we going to do it? For some of these subjects, for math, for science, there is a very certain amount they have to get to, otherwise our test scores are going to drop. So it's very important for them to discuss how long they're going to spend on each so that they can manage to fit it all in. For my content area of social studies, there is not a standardized test for social studies. And so I have more freedom to miss a thing or two here. That's not to say that I can ignore the standards, because that is certainly not something that I would ever do. But if I have to glide over something to get to something that I deem more important, that's something that I can do. Once this plan, this framework is completed, then our PLC team will be presenting it to both our administration, our principals, and our dean, and to our school board for approval. This is a framework that we want to make sure that we have the go-ahead to do before we jump into it. It is different than the traditional setup, and so we want to make sure it's approved. Our long-range plans for this, we expect this hybrid, or maybe even shifting back to distance learning, will last until a significant portion of our community is vaccinated. Our community has been, our school board has been fairly conservative about this. And so even though we only had one active case in the community in August, our school board voted to begin the year in distance learning, and we have been in distance learning this entire year so far. And so the expectation is that until a very large portion is vaccinated, that's where we will stay. This has helped to provide a reliable system. We haven't had to go through those shifts, which means that our students have gotten very used to what we are doing. Our goal with this flipped classroom is to continue that. This will be a shift, but this is a shift that we can continue on even when we're back in the school. So even when we are back completely in person, we can still do a flipped classroom if we think it's effective. According to Lowe from 2017, flipping a classroom requires reflection. So this will definitely be something we will include in our long-range plans. We will look back on it after a month, we'll look back on it after a quarter, we'll look back on it after a year, maybe even after a semester, and look at the data. How are our students doing before? How are they doing now? Where have they improved? Where have they not? All students are unique, and no one-size-fits-all approach will work with flipped classrooms. Identifying where students may need more support or what systems are not working will be the key. We're also going to be applying the idea of using what's called lean, as per Flumer, Felton, Green, to identify the systems that are not working and repair them. Now, lean is an economic business side approach to identifying portions of a business that are not being efficient and how to repair them. When you apply this to a classroom, the idea is to identify systemic issues and differentiate them from issues of specific students. So if all of your students are struggling with flipped classroom, that's not because of your students. Right? If a significant portion of your students are struggling with something, it's not them. It's definitely something that you are doing. And so we are going to be using this aspect of lean to identify those systemic issues and make sure that we repair the issues. We're not going to take a system and we're not going to take our system and slam our kids into it and say, you are going to fit this system. We are going to take our students and we are going to make our system fit our students. And that's what the idea of lean is, taking the circumstances and making sure your systems fit that issue. And for my references, I use these 4 sources.